record on this computer. Hi, everybody. Quick wave. There you go. Thank you. So good. I remembered to do the recording before we got into the good part. Okay, so this is what is on my camera behind me. Okay, now let's watch the video. It takes about 2 minutes. It'll go over my first set of instructions. It also shows the instructions that I use to get students who are sitting in a classroom to prepare them for the verbal classrooms that I do. And here we go. So I'm not, I would say anything. Okay, just try to bear with me for about 2 minutes as this video goes. My teacher wrote this up for me. Oh gosh, no, what is that? That's 46 years ago? Holy cow. Okay, when I first went to Canada. And one day she said, Jose, stand up, say all of this in a big, loud, fast voice. And I would stand up and I would say, I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, they are. Very good. 2 times, faster, louder. I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, they are. I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, they are. Now, I bet if I asked one of you right now to do that, you couldn't. And you are university students who've studied English for 6 years. Just goes to show you, all the studying you do doesn't get you ready for speaking. So we're going to speak today. First thing we're going to do, I want you to turn around in your chairs 90 degrees. Turn around 90 degrees. Turn around and face your partner on that side. Just no, turn around in your chair. Yeah, just turn around in your chair. You don't have to turn the chair. Just turn around in your chair. Good. Okay. There you go. Good. Okay. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how to do this with you. Okay. Take it from the first line. Somebody, when I say ready, go. First line. Okay. You will. I'll go with I am. You'll begin with you are, and I'll continue with he is, she is, and we'll continue from there. When we get to the bottom, we go back to the top. Ready? I'll start. I am.
You are.
He is.
She is.
It is. Look at me. Look
We
at me.
are.
They are.
I am.
You are.
He is.
She is.
It is.
We are.
They
I
are.
am.
You
He
are.
is.
She
It is.
We are.
Over here, over here, over here. Very difficult, yeah?
Yes.
But it looks so easy, yeah? Because looking at something in English, studying it on paper is nowhere near as difficult as looking at somebody in the eyes. So it's okay. If you want to look at this, go ahead. Take a look. You can check the order. You can check whatever it is you want. But when you speak to a person, learn to go from paper to a person's eyes. Look all you want, but when your mouth moves, you go back to the person. Okay, when I say ready, go, somebody begins. Look at your partners. Ready? Go! One of the first things that I'm sure that when I was told about this method that struck me when I just took the leap and I did it in class is that it was exactly as it was described to me, that once you say ready, go, they will begin. And I said, really? But my students don't like speaking. And when I ask somebody, hey, do you have any questions? I get met with, you know, a stone cold silence. I said, don't worry, Jose. If you do it right, okay, if you set up the seat pairing right, if you set up the demonstration right, when you say ready, go, they will begin. And there was no rehearsal to this. This was a demonstration class with 16 students. 4 of them had done it before, but the majority, 12, had never seen it. We're seeing it for the very first time, and they reacted as all of my classes do. Granted, they're university students, but I have seen exactly the same thing in junior high school students, in high school students. I have seen exactly the same thing with little kids as young as grade 5. When you say ready, go, they will go. There is just something that I haven't yet pinned down about how I get them into that. Maybe it's just the simplicity of saying I am, you are. And I think it is, because that's one of the things that I research about. But trust me, if you do this in your class, it will happen exactly this way. It gets reported back to me every time. Wow, Jose, it really did work. Yeah, I know. I told you it would. To get you to see where we go from the very first video, what I would do sometimes, I did it wrong. I would show this video at the end. So here we are at the end. I want you to see where this goes if you continue it for 13 weeks. Now, Again, I'm teaching university students, but if you're teaching high school students, they're not that far, especially if you're teaching really at a high level high school, they're not that far from my university students. And if you continue with what I'm about to show you in the rest of this presentation, this is where they will be just before they go on to do their testing do their test practice week 14 and the actual tests in week 15 or 16. It's only 13 weeks, but watch what happens. They are speaking in English. They are independent. They are not even looking at me. They are focusing on their partner. They are gesturing. They are doing their best to communicate with the limited amount of knowledge that they have because they were given the tools to do so. They are having a good time. They are suddenly realizing, wow, I can actually communicate in English. And I know that's hard to think, well, yeah, but my kids, I used to think the same thing. And now I don't even think, well, what about these kids? I do need to find out if they're a lower level class. And yeah, I tailor it a bit. And I will admit that when I do this, I teach in Japanese, but there are all kinds of ways to adapt your sort of your monolingual classroom, you speaking only in English, or if you have a completely English classroom, to do this. And that's why I did my demonstration videos completely in English to show how it's done. But when I do it, yes, I do it in Japanese. There's a whole discussion about that. But basically, that's where you would go from the very beginning to this ending. It works every time. And all the steps I'm about to show you get you here. Bit of a discussion about the disadvantages for students, because I need your informed consent. There are disadvantages. There aren't a lot, okay? But one of them, the main one, is that students might come up to you and say, well, wait, I'm not sure if this really helps me when it comes to, doing an ACAN test or doing a TOEIC test. They might perceive that it has less connection to the goals that are typical in the classroom. And definitely, if you were used to saying, okay, kids, now let's talk about adjectives, where you're not specifically teaching specific grammar points, and they were a little bit disappointed, well, I'm not getting that from my Gaijin teacher, and I'm not sure if it's correct for my Japanese teacher, they might be concerned. However, this addresses actual speaking skills. And those are the speaking skills they need to actually make concrete the knowledge that they have. It is partly your job to explain to them, trust me on this, okay? I've talked to university professors. I've been living in Japan 5 years, 6 years. If you don't build your speaking skills, anything that you study will be with you only for 3 months for the test and will immediately fly out of your head at the end of the test, because you need long-term memory scaffolds inside your head. Speaking is a set of bookshelves. The knowledge that you get from your teachers about adjectivals or frontal adverbials, okay, that's the information. But without the bookshelves, you're buying a lot of books that you can only pile on the floor. And you need a set of bookshelves to let you have a structure that you can easily pluck out the books that you want. Without speaking, it just becomes, I don't want to say books are garbage, but it becomes useless information. You also maximize your speaking time. And for the students that might have been doubting what you were doing, you'll get an equal or maybe a greater number of students going, holy cow, I'm speaking English. This is what I always thought a Gaijin teacher could do for me. Okay, a whole bunch of other things there. By the way, I'm going to make this presentation a PDF that you can download, or I will give to Simon and he will pass it along to you if you're interested. I will also have a website where at least this partial recording will be available, so you can go over it again. And you can also see the recordings of my other presentations and the other PDFs that I sent out. Now, there are also disadvantages for the teachers. One of them is it will drain you. This takes a lot of energy. If you're used to like saying, okay, kids, now go to the textbook on page 12 and fill in the blanks for the next, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you're used to, you got to talk and talk and talk. You are really having to lead through this, and your energy, your experience, your ability to do this is tested at the very first when you're trying to learn how to do all of this. And once you get used to it, you enter into a different frame of mind about what your teaching is. you become less the idea that you are a purveyor of information. And you actually, okay, somebody, I guess, is asking for the live transcript. So if you don't mind, I will enable that right now. And I don't know if you can see the live transcript. If anyone can see that live transcript at the bottom of the screen, can you give me a thumbs up? Good, thank you very much. Okay, that's basically me talking. Somebody requested it, so I have turned it on. Okay, so what was I saying? So you enter into a different paradigm. You are not just somebody who delivers information. You are delivering information, but you become more of a language coach. You are like the manager of a baseball team, or you are like the head coach of a hockey team. Your job is to motivate and to provide positive psychology. And yes, you do have assistant coaches and stuff. So you also have to take on the job of the assistant coaches, which is to teach skills, not information. Skills are a very different thing. Your JTE is very good at providing the information they need, new vocabulary, maybe some new grammar that the kids didn't know before last year. But you are the one actually show them the actual mental and physical skills to get that out. It's a different paradigm. And all of these things are what we are now going to be doing. So the stuff that we did before, the stuff that we saw before. Simon, can I get you to unmute your microphone, please? And I'm going to do a demonstration with Simon. And that demonstration, I want you guys to pay attention to. And once you see this, I'm going to send you into breakout rooms to try it for yourselves, because there's nothing like actually doing this. You might look at this and say, okay, well, that seems awfully simple, almost kind of boring. Are you sure that's not going to be kind of dumb for the students to do? Because a lot of my students feel the same way. Then when they do it, they go, whoa, that was way harder than I thought it was. So Simon, I'm going to give you the demonstration as if you were one of my students, okay? And don't worry, I know that smile. You're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to flub up. You're probably not, but even if you do, it's kind of cool, because when students see that their teacher on any given day can make, a mistake, because sometimes we're not all perfect when we speak, it's something to kind of snicker about. And if you have a good sense of humor, you snicker about it too. And you actually say, see, when I'm telling you about, don't worry about making mistakes, I certainly don't. And I know I will. So Simon, here we are. Are you okay with those 7 pronouns?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the be verb. Okay, this is the present tense of the be verb, and you notice that they're all a little bit different, but I want you to make sure that that subject and that verb match. And I'm going to say the first line, and as quickly as you can, you throw the second line back at me at the same rate, at the same pace. I'm going to go with the next line after that. When we get to the bottom, we go back up to the top, and we don't stop until I say stop. You good with that?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. I am.
You are.
He is.
She is.
It is.
We are.
They are.
I am.
You are.
He is.
She is.
It is.
We are. They
are.
I am.
You are.
He is.
She is.
Okay. Now, that is a little trick that I started doing once we started doing online classes. But some of you have, you might have seen these blackboards that slide up and down, and one slides behind the other. If you strategically write this first part on the one that slides behind the other, you can actually hide this, which is kind of tricky. But I only do that in certain situations, especially in the first class. Let them look all they want. They probably have never seen this subject, the subjects, the pronouns written in this way. They probably have never seen the be verb aligned in this way. So it's okay to look at it. Now, this is what we're going to do. First of all, does anyone want to ask me a question about anything that we've seen so far in any of the first few slides? Simon, do we have anything in the chat that is a kind of a question? You're muted, sir, just in case you don't know.
Yes, there is one question. So yeah, Marcus has asked, what are some approaches or accommodations of this technique for high school students with a lower level of English proficiency? This also applies to junior high school, which would be a lower level.
I think so. I don't think you need any accommodation at this point. Trust me on this one. If they're high school students, they have seen these pronouns, they know that verb. What if they look like they're pretending, oh, no, okay, I'll speak a little Japanese. Yeah, yoku kannayo mo. Okay, well, do you understand he? Yeah, wakannayo. They're pretending. They don't want to be seen as someone who stands out from the group at its lowest common denominator, even if they do know it. They know it. They learned it in junior high school. Some of them learned it in grade 6 elementary, grade 5 elementary, when they went to English conversation classes. At this point, there is no need for accommodation. As a matter of fact, they don't even have to know the meaning. If they don't know the meaning, all they're doing is just actually uttering things in a mechanical sort of near language mode not skills acquisition theory, but audiolingual. Yeah, the audiolingual method was criticized at a certain point because students don't really need to know the meaning. So even at this point, they don't need to know the meaning. But once they start saying it, it'll start to come to their heads if they're in high school or even if they're in junior high school. So I would say it doesn't need one, but we can discuss that a little bit later, Marcos. Thank you for your question. All right, I'm going to throw you into breakout rooms. Now, if you've never seen a breakout room before, okay, basically you'll be in there with another person and the time for it is 2 minutes because sometimes we have slow connections. People have a little bit of a difficulty to go in there. I would suggest that you do not go to any length of saying, oh, hi, hey, I saw you last week at the Starbucks. You ordered that, blah, 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 blah. Go straight into it. And the first person who lands in the room assumes that they're going to go first and they're going to say, I am. Second person who lands in the room, assume that somebody already there. And that means that you're going to go, you are. There'll be one room where there are 3 people. Okay. Because people have entered a little bit late. If there are 3 people, then naturally just go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now there's going to be going for 2 minutes. And I would suggest at this point, you prepare to unmute yourself, turn on your camera so that then by the time you go into the room, everybody will be ready to go. If we don't have any questions, Simon, I think we're good to go, right? I'm going to hit the button. Okay, here we go, everybody. 2 minutes and we'll see you back here. Okay, the recording is now resumed. One of the nice things about doing this online, I did not enjoy the online experience as much as some people did, but I didn't not enjoy it. But one of them is that everyone comes back with their cameras on, and quite a few of my students were like you guys, they were all kind of smiling. They were having a good time in there. And you will get that a lot more in the classroom. In the classroom, when you say stop, and by the way, you're going to see me do it again a little bit later, but the room is so loud that I have learned not to just yell stop, because sometimes I'm not heard by the kids in the back. I have to go like this. Pardon me if it's too loud. I have to clap my hands and then yell stop because they are so loud. A person I know, Jenny Crittenden, she was an ALT in Fukuoka when I was doing this. And she said she tried to just yell stop. Okay, they didn't hear her sometimes. So she started to try to do my thing. They didn't hear her. So she, at some point, she actually brought like something like a cowbell and started banging it because nobody could hear her because the kid, it was such a huge din. Now, what are the psychological effects of that? Where these kids were probably shy to speak with each other, even in a pair, or especially with you and like that demonstration that Simon just did. The first kid will be very, very shy. But once they get to about he is or she is, they realize, oh, well, that's not that hard. Let me just grin and bear it. When they're in a classroom, and most of you are probably face-to-face, I assume. Simon, I want to ask you a question there. Most Fukui classes will still be face-to-face when we come to April again?
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Okay. You guys are going to see when they stop, they're actually like feeling kind of like a little bit of energy there. It'll happen. Now, this is just the be verb. This is just present tense. There are, I don't know how many, permutations of English you can come up with, but it's probably infinite. But you can start from here and go on to the next one. Just a simple adjective, I am sleepy. Or maybe a simple negation. I am not hungry. And this takes on a whole new meaning at this point. And I would actually like to do it again with you guys. I'm going to recreate these breakout rooms so that you have hopefully different partners. I'm pretty sure you will have different partners. And Oh, Marcos, go ahead. Unmute yourself, sir. Marcos, did you want to ask me a question? Okay, unmute yourself. Go ahead. Oh, hang on. Okay, I'm gonna have to interrupt this share. And I think Marcos, for some reason, cannot unmute himself. You should be able to unmute yourself, Marcos. Ask to unmute. Okay, there's a button there that allows you to unmute.
Okay. Thank you for everything. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Go ahead.
All right. My question is, with this activity, can we use contractions, or do you want us to do he is, she is?
Gonna get there.
Okay.
Gonna get there. What I'm showing you right now is a series of, carefully scaffolded moments through this. Each one of these, what I say, okay, ready, go. Actually, in the face-to-face classroom, I would leave it about maybe 45 seconds to a minute maximum. I let you guys stay in there for 2 minutes, mostly because of the limitations of Zoom and people going into and out of rooms, cameras being turned on and such. But I'm about to put you into a breakout room that's only about a minute. Okay. And that is the maximum that I would do for a breakout room when my kids are already used to things. Simon, did you want to ask?
Yeah, so one person is unable to use their mic today. So obviously when they go into a breakout room, they're unable, they cannot participate. So
I need to know who this person is.
Okay. Should I check with that person if they don't mind me? I'll send you a direct message.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I need to know who they are, so I won't put them into a breakout room, or I know to put in 3 people in that room. I need to know who they are.
Okay. I'll
yeah, thank you very much. Let's see, where was I? So Marcos, I think I answered your question. You're good? Okay, so yeah, give it a second. It'll go through eventually, and by the way, if you don't want to teach contractions for whatever reason, thank you, Simon, for whatever reason, you don't have to. The whole point of this is just to get them to do utterances. Now, there are reasons why you don't want to do contractions. I actually have a whole list of them, but the end of that speech is you should do contractions. So I agree with you. But if you don't want to, at a certain point, you don't have to. What you just want to do is to get them to start speaking. Okay, so I need to find this person who, gosh, I've never had to do this before. Oh, there you are. Okay, so I'm going to, wait, okay, where's the third person? Okay, I'm going to put everyone, those 2 people, into a room of 4. So that it'll end up becoming, because I can't just put her, sorry, now I said the pronoun, sorry. I can't just put her into a room, because then that'll leave one person alone. So I'm going to create a room of 4. So I'm sorry about the people who end up in a room of 4. You're not going to have as much time to do this, but it's not really that big a deal. It's just a matter of getting you to try this when it's slightly longer. So here's the phrase. I'm going to share it again. I am not hungry, and I will share this back in the room, but you're English teachers. I think you can remember this much, but in case you can't, it will be in the room, and I will put you into a breakout room. Does anyone want to ask me anything before we go into the next breakout room? No? Okay. I also realize that what I normally do is when I put you into seated pairs to do this face-to-face, everything has a demonstration. You must demonstrate everything. So I already asked Simon, so would anyone like to volunteer to do a demonstration of this with me? Oh, you just like Meg, please turn on your camera, and could you open your microphone, please? Hey, so open up your mic. Left-hand side. Yep. Okay, I want to ask you to unmute. There you go. How about that button?
There we go. Let me do it. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I thought I had given everybody the ability to unmute, but I guess it's not. So I got to remind myself. Okay.
Totally good.
Okay, Meg, This is my demonstration in case you were one of my students who
Yep.
couldn't speak English. So please bear with me. Okay, now we take that I am, you are, you know that part. Okay, well, maybe you were hungry this morning, but you had breakfast. It should be no problem for you. Remember that not is the negative. You put that right after the be verb. Okay, so on the be verb, you put it right after, and then we're going to use hungry. Do you have any questions, Meg?
No, I'm good.
Okay, here we go. I am not hungry.
You are not hungry.
He is not hungry.
She is not hungry.
It is not hungry.
We are not hungry.
They are not hungry.
I am not hungry.
You are not hungry.
He is not hungry.
He is not hungry.
It is.
We are
It's
not
not-
hungry.
They are not hungry.
Now, you see what happens is that the focus, the stress on our minds isn't on the actual English grammar. The English grammar was not a problem once they figured out the pronoun order. The focus was on the pronoun order.
Mm.
And the actual grammar itself became secondary, became a background task. It became easy to speak English. The hard part was just sticking with my weird pronoun order. Okay, so here's a share again. I'm going to throw you into breakout rooms. Remind you to turn on your cameras, open up your microphones, and I'm going to throw you into breakout rooms right now. Good luck, everybody. Oh, wait a minute. I got to make that 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, good luck, everybody. See you in a bit. Those exit smiles. I call them exit smiles. Any questions before we continue from here? The experience itself was different, right? The experience itself wasn't what you expected, that it was harder than you thought. And the reason why is that it is something you've never done before. Now, that is how your students feel every time you ask them to do something from their textbooks. This also sets you up to become a little bit more empathic, a little bit more sympathetic to how your students are feeling in the classroom all the time. And if that is something that you find interesting and maybe amusing at this point, it's good. Work with it. I think we need to have a lot, especially in online classes. Maybe some of you actually do online classes, maybe even privately, but having some empathy and sympathy with your students for what they're doing, I think is something that should be spoken about more. Okay. By the way, I know that someone probably were wondering, where was my partner? Some people will have problems with their connectivity throughout this. If your partner doesn't show up in the breakout room, please forgive them. Please forgive me. Sometimes it's just the way the internet works. I know that one person was kind of left alone for an entire minute there. Okay. I was in Osaka last week. So in Osaka, plus last week, you're getting a primary object and a secondary object. Okay. If you want to stretch that out, I was in Osaka last week for a kendo match. The original of this was actually, I was in Osaka last week for job hunting, which is what I do with my university students, but your junior high school students probably can relate a lot more to this than to job hunting. Look at that. I was, now you're in the past tense. You can switch this to the past tense, or you can switch this to future tense if you want to. I will be in Osaka next week for a kendo match. All things you can do. And this is not at all difficult. Okay, now maybe they haven't seen that preposition in that way for a kendo match in Osaka. Maybe they're wondering about a few things, but certainly it is not difficult to comprehend. They might not know the actual order, but that's because they've never actually done this verbally. But once they start speaking it out, and by the time they get through the first round, they're going to say this 3 or 4 times, it starts to stick, just like tying a shoelace. Remember the first time when you were about 4 years old, your mother encouraged you to actually, come on, you can tie your shoelaces by yourself, and it was taking you 5 minutes to tie your damn shoelace. And now you don't even look at your shoelace when you tie it. Okay, this is what's going to happen. They're going to say this so often. They're going to say I was so often that they know that it's not I were, it is I was. It is not a matter of knowledge. It is a matter of repetition and practice that they need. At the simpler levels, okay, they need that practice that they have never been afforded because they had to go through so much material in preparation for next week's test or the entrance exam to high school or to university. This is what they didn't do. The simple stuff. not the hard stuff, relative pronouns. Holy cow, why are you even showing me that when I don't even know how to say I was in Osaka? I was in Osaka last week for a kendo match is where we would stop at the point when we're just doing simple statements. Now, without saying too much, at a certain point, you have to start teaching them the question form, the interrogative. And if you think about the interrogative in English, it is so far separated from what they're used to in their natural lives in Japanese and how to do an interrogative, which is just to basically slap an entire one simple syllable onto a statement and it becomes a question, or just raise the intonation and it becomes a question. But to actually do a proper grammatical English question, you have to do crazy things. Now, I'm going to do a demonstration of the question form in an advanced stage, and I'm going to show you later on the basic stage and put you into another breakout room. But watch this first, okay? And this is my first demonstration of the question form. How do we practice that? And don't worry, you'll be able to ask me questions after. Here we go. I have a very crazy way of doing this practice. First, it starts with I go. When you make the question, you make it with the subject next in order. So if your answer was I go, your question will use you. I go, do you go? Your answer to this question uses the same subject, which then takes the next subject. This question uses this answer, which then takes the next subject, and so on and so on. It looks hard, but actually, once you start doing it, it starts getting pretty easy. Let's take this slowly. You have any questions here? Okay, so I'll go slowly. I go, do you go? I go, do you go? He goes, does she go? Next one after she. It goes, do we go? They go, do I go?
You go.
They go, do I go?
I go to them.
You go, does he go?
He goes. Does she go?
Very good. Do your best. Ready? Go. You go this way. Okay? If you need to look, you can look. But when you speak to my eyes. Ready? I go, do you go?
You go, does he go?
He goes, does she go?
She goes, does it go?
It goes, do we go?
We go, do they go?
Good. Do your best. Ready? Go.
I go, do you go? You go, does he go?
Right? Pretty weird grammar if you think about it. This is the way I explain it. And when I first do this, this was a special class. I had to crush a lot of activities into 2 hours demonstration. And I discovered, much to my disdain, that it took even more time than I thought it would. So I wasn't able to do what I normally do, which is this. I begin from the be verb. So we do the be verb. I am, you are, he is, she is, it is. I am sleepy. I am not hungry. I was in Osaka. And after about in the first week or the second week, depending on your schedule, if you have some orientation that you have to do in the first week, the day that I introduce this, I want to try to end at the question form, at the interrogative. So that usually requires about 45 minutes. So if it's your class entirely, you're going to be pushing it. If it's a 50-minute class, you might want to cut it in half and end it just at like a long sentence. I was in Osaka last week with my mother, which is something that I'll talk about later, but that is its own challenge, being able to say that smoothly. then pick that up at the next class. And then that way you can give more time to establishing the scaffold and getting to the question. But this is how I would introduce it. Okay, first, be verb. Okay, everybody, remember, we just did the be verb. Okay, well, let's take out all that extra stuff about Osaka. Let's just come down to the subject and the verb. Okay, well, now you know that, you probably know that in English, you just take the verb and the subject, flip it around, you got a question. Isn't that wacky? Isn't that crazy? Sorry, nothing you can do about it. That's the way English goes. But you got to practice it anyway. So this is how we're going to practice it. Okay, if I just asked you to say a statement and a question as part of your turn, it's kind of boring, really, if the subject was the same. I'm going to make this a lot harder for you. See that yellow line? That is one person's spoken utterance. Goes from the first point, I am, this is where we all start, and look at the question. The question uses the subject that is next in order to the subject that was used in the answer. So if you answer with I am, the next subject after I is you. That becomes your question subject. I am, are you? To answer that question in a natural conversations, are you? Well, yeah, I am. That's natural, but this is a practice. So I want you to remember this rule. Whatever the subject is of the question that was used to ask you is the subject you will use to answer. If you were asked, are you? You will answer, you are. It was the subject of the question. It will be the subject of your answer. Now, the other rule that I mentioned before still applies. The question that you ask will use the subject next in order to the subject that you used in the answer. It is actually a lot harder to explain than to do. So again, to any brave souls out there that would actually like to do this demonstration with me, I would like to see at least one hand raised. I hope I see a bunch. But who would like to do this demonstration with me? Anyone? Otherwise, I'm gonna, oh, okay, Terry. I gotta turn on or allow Terry to unmute. Terry, please go ahead.
Hey.
Okay, Terry, do you have any questions?
Nope. It's
Did you want-
pretty straightforward.
Did you understand my explanation? You okay?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. I am, are you?
I am. Are you? So it's
Yep.
like you. So from here, it's like you are. Is he?
Okay, good. You don't, okay, just go straight with the answer. He is she?
She is. Is it?
It is, are we?
We are. Are they?
They are, am I?
I am. Are you?
You are, is he?
He is. Are you? There
Next
is
one
she.
after She is it?
It is. Are they? Are we?
We are they?
They are. Am I?
Good. You don't want to make that demonstration last too long. You especially want to try to end the demonstration on a high note where both of you are smiling or the classroom is tittering. Oh, Terry, you're way better in English than I thought you were, or whatever else. End everything on a high note. Use the room energy to send these kids into their practice. Everybody smiling, and if you see like flubs or people laughing, laugh with them. Do not look at English as the target. Look at the room energy as the target. What do you do to raise that room energy? The English will take care of itself. Okay, we're going to do this again. The two people that cannot use their microphones will be in a room by themselves. So I don't know, just wave, sign language. I don't know if you know sign language, but enjoy yourselves. Everybody else, another minute. I'm going to put this into the breakout rooms. But do you have any questions before we go in? Raise your hands and I'll know what to unmute you. Okay, here we go, everyone. Good luck. And you're still being recorded, so please turn off your cameras and unmute your or mute your microphones, please. Very cool. I think we have a question, and I'm going to answer it now. I believe it's from Lauren Suna. Do I do this as a warm-up activity? No, my the videos that you saw, and if I had my druthers, and I used to have them because I used to have classes where I was basically allowed to write my own syllabus, choose my own textbooks, and I disavowed textbooks, so no textbooks. We're going to just do this. So I was able to do 16 weeks entirely just this, using my own scaffolded sequence, my own schedule, to get them to the point where you saw in that second video of my classroom. But if you want to do it just as a warm-up activity, it lends itself very well as a warm-up activity. I will, however, give you a warning. I have a university friend. He's a professor at a university. When he first saw these, he was very excited. He always wanted to do something like this. And he thought, you know what, I'll just introduce it slowly and I'll use it as just a warm-up activity. 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the beginning of my 90-minute classes. He did it, but because he was into it, and because the students not so miraculously got into it, he found that what would have been, or what should have been, a 15-minute warm-up turned out to be half of the class. It turned into 45 minutes because the students just naturally got into it. Or sometimes he literally did not look at his watch and go, holy crap, we've been at this for 35 minutes, 40 minutes. It choose the time. Because, just even getting them into classes, getting them not into classes. Simon, I think we have an open mic. Can you find out where that open mic is and maybe mute it, please? Oh, thank you, Mary. It was Mary. Okay, it's cool. So yeah, go ahead. Use it as a warm-up. Now, what I would do it as a warm-up is to start from one verb, like let's say I go, then go to the question. I go to you go to he goes to she go. Okay, which actually is over here, the next slide. Not going to put you into breakout rooms for this, but I do want to do a demonstration. So if you're thinking about maybe doing a demonstration with me, consider it, and I'll ask you to raise your hand when we do. We were doing an irregular verb with be. I would also do it as an irregular verb with say should or can, because irregular verbs are very simple to grasp. It's a simple subject verb flip. But with a regular verb like have or go, it requires the auxiliary verb, the question verb of do. And their brains are on fire trying to remember that the third person singular has the third person form to it, but it doesn't have that in the question. That goes to do, and I've got to use the infinitive form, and boom, their head explodes. Hopefully not all over your jeans. But this is hard. And I'll prove it. Okay, so who wants to do a demonstration? People are backing up right out the door. Okay, Callie, can I get you to, I gotta let you in on there. Okay. Hi. Okay, shouldn't be a problem, but do you have a question?
Nope, I think I get it.
Okay, here we go. I have, do you have?
You have. Does he have?
He has, does she have?
She has. Does it have?
It has, do we have?
We have. Do they have?
They have, do I have?
I have. Do you have?
You have, does he have?
He has. Does she have?
She has, does it have?
It has. Do we have?
Okay, gotcha. But it's okay. Now, you have, of course, the distinct advantage of being obviously a native speaker, but where kids will kind of stumble on this is the natural position of knowing instinctively that if I say he, your brain instinctively knows that the connection goes to has. But for them, they still have to build that. But it is up to you as to whether or not you want to begin enforcing it, how you enforce it. Oh, wait, this kid is really sensitive about their English. I should be very careful. Oh, wait, it's the same kid again, but he keeps doing that. Now, how do I handle it? This is where I encourage you to be sympathetic to your students and start to see them as human beings and think it is not about the test. I do not have to constantly worry about them becoming accurate with their English. I want them to feel that this is a safe place to learn and that they can learn even outside of this classroom. But they have to be reminded. If they have been reminded enough, then don't worry about it. Peter, did you have a question?
First of all, thank you so much. This has been fantastic, and I'm absolutely going to use this all the time. Just one quick question. When you're doing the partner or like the statement form and the question form. Down later, if I ask the question, is he, then the answer is he is, or does he have, he has. And that is really getting them very used to it. If the question is, like, if someone asks you a question, does he have, he has,
Yes.
is great. It's just instinctual.
Yes.
Just a quick question, and I understand it would break the pattern. What about the first two? Because, like, for example, if I ask, do you have, the answer would be, I have. But
Yes.
is that just something you're just like, just kind of, it would wreck the pattern too much?
What I find is that when they get into to answer your question simply, yes, it would wreck the pattern. But what I find in a classroom is that they do it well, and they know instinctively this is a pattern drill. It is a drill. It is not a conversation. And I say that a lot. And when they go into conversations, if somebody say, you play sports, I play sports, I do. They know instinctively. It is not a problem for them. It doesn't get stuck. It's not like, wait, do I say you? Because I did that in the practice. Not a problem. If anything, it is a problem that they still do not instinctively have enough practice time to make he has, does he have the something instinctual to say. So your question, I know that you're concerned about that. A lot of people have that concern. It does not appear when it's time to actually do the real conversations, the independent conversations.
Yeah, that answers it perfectly, and I think it makes sense as well that they practice so much. I have, you have, in general, they would know how to answer that. But as you said, like the latter ones would be more difficult, so it's good for them to get practice of that. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting requests from Simon and about more users that can't do stuff. Actually, I'm not going to be putting you into breakout rooms much more from here, because we have a lot of things that we need to see, and the breakout rooms themselves serve their purpose. You can see that doing this is a lot harder than it looks. And I would suggest, if you look at my curriculum and the slides that I show, and I have been asked to write a book about this, and I actually am going to be writing a book about this, that I'm actually going to be calling it the Fluency Cookbook, because it's a whole bunch of recipes. Okay, if you have students at this level, if you are at this point in your class, if you want to teach this out of the textbook, here's a recipe for that. And I'm going to be publishing that book, I hope, sometime after I finish writing it. But once you do it, okay, that is something that I suggest whatever you do it with yourself first. Practice it, okay? Encourage your, maybe find a study buddy and you do it together. It can't be that hard. There's a whole bunch of you in Fukui now that are kind of looking at this inquisitively and maybe want to do it. Now, goes from here. Ooh, we're not done yet, folks. Goes from here. Consider this, okay? We would say something like this automatically. But what I call the double variable conjugation, I wouldn't, by the way, look at that, okay? This, I wouldn't even throw this at the student until about week 7, maybe week 6. Because first you have to make sure that they remember the actual possessive pronouns. My, your, his, hers. They get screwed up with its, because they are trying to suppress their natural tendency to say itsu when they're trying to say it. So they're trying to say it, and then now they're being asked to say it's, or when like Marcos, when you're teaching the contractions, they're being asked to do that, and sometimes their actual pronunciation of s isn't strong enough. So when you're trying to do a double variable conjugation, I have Netflix on my phone. Their brains are, again, be careful of the spatter, because they're going to be trying so hard. Simon, because this is a particularly tough one, I'm going to ask you to do this. I don't want to torture anybody else. Can you? Okay, good. Okay, can you see how this goes, though?
Yes.
Okay, now if you're afraid your students aren't going to get it, write out the whole thing. But at this point, it's week 6, week 7. And to save me time and to save time so that then I don't have to write up the diagram every time I throw in a new verb, I modify it so that all I write is the pronoun I, an arrow pointing down, to a pronoun they, to as a symbol of I want you to go through all of the pronouns as you remember them. It will also challenge them to like start burning that into their heads. They see the sample statement and the sample question, and they know how to conjugate from there, just like Simon would know because they practiced it enough. If they don't, then you remind them, no, next one after you is he. No, next one after it is we. It's okay. They will flub. They will, nobody learns how to, I love baseball. I love baseball analogies because especially in a high school that has a baseball team, when you say bunt, they know what a bunt is, and they know that a bunt is actually a lot harder than it looks. And you say, you can't learn how to do bunts, lay down a really good bunt down to third baseline or the first baseline just because you want to. You have to practice and practice. Okay, Simon, you ready to go?
Yeah. So are you doing both the?
Yes, that's my first bit, and you're going to answer from my question.
So I start with you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it.
By the way, I'm affording you the luxury that I wouldn't allow my students. I wouldn't even ask them. I would say, are you ready to go? And you'd say, yeah, can I? No. Are you ready to go? And give me a yes or a no. Yes. Okay, then we go. And the nice thing is they discover, holy shit, I didn't really have to ask the question. I know it instinctively. They build an instinct to it. Okay, here we go. I have Netflix on my phone. Do you have Netflix on your phone?
You have Netflix on your phone. Does he have Netflix on his phone?
He has Netflix on his phone. Does she have Netflix on her phone?
She has Netflix on her phone. Does it have Netflix on its phone?
It has Netflix on its phone. Do we have Netflix on our phones?
We have Netflix on our phones. Do they have Netflix on their phones?
Good. Now imagine how much harder that would be for someone who is not a native speaker and how that would, but you have to be careful. You don't want to crush them too early and say, oh shit, I knew this was going to get hard, because if everybody has trouble with this, you are going to get a stutter in the class and you're going to get basically your first strike. You probably get 3 strikes in a class where you might have flubbed and everyone's going, what the hell? I've never seen that. So everything that you see on there, even Netflix, kids are used to seeing Netflix in katakana. And if they've never seen it in English, they might not know it's actually written with an X. And they might not know how to pronounce that. You have to explain everything. You cannot explain too much. Well, maybe you can. But I don't think you can, but maybe you can, especially if you keep repeating yourself all the time. My grandfather plays tennis with me. Again, an instinctual thing, but just play that out in your head, how hard that would be, because then you get the object pronoun plus the possessive pronoun. You have to practice that object pronoun. You have to remind them that it's me, you, him, her, and they're going, okay, I know that. Wait, can I do this? And they're rifling through their heads to get this done. But at a certain point, it starts becoming instinct. That's the magic moment when they realize, holy cow, I said all of that. Stuff is pretty cool. I work as a cram school teacher on the weekends. You work as a cram school teacher on the weekends. He works as a cram school teacher on the weekends. But what about we or they? If I was to remove this, would they remember instinctively to take out the and put in the s for the plural? Would they know all of that? So you have to play this out in your head, do it yourself, because maybe this is the target or a similar in grammar to the target sentence that you want to end up with that was in the textbook that you want them to be able to actually practice. And all of this has to be done slowly. I work. Do you work? You work. Does he work? I work as a cram school teacher. I work variation at a cram school. I work on the weekends. Do you work on the weekends? You work on the weekends. Does he work on the weekends? Okay, kids, let's put all that together. When you're doing a long sentence like this, your target is no longer just the utterance itself. Your target is being able to say sentences smoothly. And that smooth sentence utterance is an entirely different part, because remember I was talking about how you want to target not just speed, but also pace. Okay, I give the kids an acronym, one idea, one breath, OIOB. Remember that. Anytime you want to say a sentence, no matter how long it is, take enough breath so that you actually finish the sentence at the end of your exhale. Make sure that you don't stop anywhere until you get to the final period of the sentence. plan everything that you want to say, and at least then you're focusing on your breathing. Focusing on your breathing is something a lot of these kids know instinctively from lessons in judo, lessons in Japanese archery, lessons in ikebana, lessons in so much in traditional Japanese arts that require physical movement because breathing is the center of a lot of it. When you start talking about breathing, a lot of these kids are going to get it. They don't do any of that, you can use analogies with tennis or with piano. Now, some kids might not have any experience in any of those things, but another one of the wonderful things about verbal classrooms is that if enough of the kids get what you're doing and enough of the kids succeed, if you get up to the point where like 60% of the kids can do it relatively successfully, the other 40% are dragged along and are motivated and inspired by seeing that the majority of the class can do it. I'm going to try even harder because if they can do it, so can I. Even something as difficult as this. Watch this demonstration video with me.
A little bit difficult. I live in Kitakyushu. My sister. Do you Kitakyushu with our sister?
See them freaking out? See them just going, I can't do it.
So let's review. I, my, you, your, he, is she, it, it's. Now, especially that S. If that S is not there, it changes the meaning. We, our, they, their. I live in Kitakyushu with my sister. Do you live in Kitakyushu with your sister?
You live in Kitakyushu with your sister. Does he live in Kitakyushu with his sister?
Good, very good. But again, come back to this practice. Perfect grammar. Pronunciation was perfect, but that was not fluent. So, if we go back to this. He lives in Kitakyushu with his sister. If you feel confident, do everything in one breath. But try to do at least one sentence with no stopping, with a nice pace, all in one breath. Do your best. Ready? Go! I live in Kitakyushu with my sister. Do you live in Kitakyushu with your sister? Do you live in Kitakyushu with your sister? You were going up and down and up and down. So smooth, smooth. I live in Kitakyushu with my sister. Go, 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 go. Go, go. I know this is really hard. And a lot of you are going to want to stop to think about your English because that's the way you've always spoken English. That unfortunately leads you to what we call broken English. You're going to stop all the time to speak. Ready? Okay. Okay, number one, take a deep breath. I live in Kitakyushu with my sister. Do you live in Kitakyushu with your sister?
You live in Kitakyushu with your sister.
No. Now that was just because you were going too fast. You weren't ready. You wanted to force it. Don't force it. Take your time. If it takes a long time here, no problem. It will get faster. It will get better. But you must do it first correctly. Take your time. Do your best. Ready? Go.
I live in Kitakyushu with my sister. Do you live in Kitakyushu with your sister?
It is much harder to teach one idea, one breath than it is to teach high-speed utterances. takes a lot of modeling, takes a lot of patience. You must be patient with them. They're doing their best. And if you saw what I did with those first two boys, I wasn't ragging on them about their English. I wasn't ragging. I don't think I was ragging. People say that I rag a lot, but I was bragging just then. I was giving them advice on how to control their pace so that then it was something that they knew would come out. Remember the first boy? I'm going to just come back over here. The one that, him, when he was saying, I live in Kitakyushu with my sister. That hesitation, I've seen that enough to know that that wasn't him having trouble with the language. That was him going so far that he wasn't used to it, that he actually stopped himself because he didn't want to get to the end. He actually wanted to stop himself to give himself a chance to do it again. It's a psychological pause. It wasn't a skill problem. A lot of them just need to actually learn how to be able to control that pace. So I was telling them, slow it down purposely. If this is the way that you speak, try speaking a little bit more like this. Control that pace to the point where it is so comfortable, you're actually boring yourself with something that's too easy. Achieve that moment where you get to the period every time without any pauses. Read your own mind. See how you feel. Why are you pausing when you don't need to? You know you don't need to. Or if you do need to, ask yourself where you need to. Is it because you have a problem with this pronoun? You have a problem with this verb form? Okay, learn yourself. Know where you have your problems. Pull back with your pace and use that to control how you speak. All of these things, you're going to notice them. And I can't go through all of them right here, but you're going to see them more and more and more as you do more of this stuff. Okay, let's move ahead here. Okay. Here's one of the longest sentences I've ever gotten my students to say. And at first they were flubbing it, but eventually they made it. And I eased up on it by making the question a lot easier so they could focus just on the statement. Okay, and that statement, believe it or not, was in the text that we were looking at, but could easily be in your textbook, in junior high school even. Okay, because they have to teach, more than or whatever else, a comparative form, and that's in the textbook. But these junior high school kids might know it, but they never practice it, and there it is no surprise at all that they can't speak because they never practice something that is remarkably difficult for them. Even, my sister, I live in Kitakyushu with my sister. If they don't practice this, how are they ever going to say it? But the textbook is full of these things. I want to talk about a different part of the VC curriculum, which is getting them to independent conversations. And again, we're not going to do any breakout rooms. You guys can imagine this. You can practice this yourselves because number one, we're running out of time. But I call this the switch. This is where they start bringing in their own ideas. Up to now, learning the negatives, learning the past, learning contractions, that has all been controlled structures. The original form of this teaching method used to acknowledge that, and the acronym used to be called not VC, it used to be called SCVC, structure control and verbal classrooms. But I was convinced, or by others, my collaborators, that SC made things a little bit weighty and VC could be used in a faster way to say it. So this is the title, but this is how we actually do it. So this is going to be the target that I would work to through one class. Now you see those question marks on the top left position of the first two statements. That means an unlimited repeat. Okay. They were repeating, I like music, I like music, I like music. And I would say, okay, just repeat the statement and then ask the next question. I like music, I like music. Do you like music? You like music, you like music. Does he like music? And you can use the variation on repeating just to the point where, these kids basically will just say, I like music. Do you like music? You like music. Does he like music? Then all of that is repeated. The question doesn't need to be repeated. It's the statement that they need to learn how to repeat. At first, you're telling them repeat it 2 times, repeat it 3 times. Some of them are going, what the hell is this? Why are we repeating this? If they get to the point where they're wondering, this guy's gone off his rocker, I tell them, no, you need to learn how to repeat with confidence, because you will discover that when you're in a communication problem, You want to fix a communication problem? It probably wasn't your grammar. It probably wasn't your pronunciation. It probably was, as it is in my experience, that when people speak to me in English, Japanese people speak to me in English, they are nervous and they speak in a small voice, and I literally cannot hear them. I just want them to say it again. If you encounter a communication problem, your instinct should be to repeat what you just said, not to change it, not to worry about your pronunciation, not to search for new grammar or new vocabulary, but to repeat it again. And I'm trying to drill that into you. We teach them to repeat it. At this point, though, I would tell them, okay, now I want you to repeat it as many times as you want. Now, why do you want to repeat it as many times as you want? Well, that's because I want you to think of a new word while you're repeating. And get to the point where they're saying, I like music, I like music, I like music, I like music. Oh, I like microphones. I like microphones. I like microphones. I like microphones. Whatever. They'll look around the room, they'll see a pencil. They go, I like pencil. I like pencil. I like pencils. I like pencils. I like pencils. They do that all the time until they get to the point where they can take the I like music and the word that they've chosen, they use it to replace. Okay, so where it says new right there, I like new, that's where they put in the new word they chose. I like music, I like music, I like music, I like microphones, I like microphones, I like microphones. When they feel that the other person has heard the repeat enough of the new word, then they can put it into the question. Do you like microphones? Which then is the pass signal to the other person to receive it and to use microphones as their repeat word. I like microphones. I like microphones. I like microphones. I like pizza. I like pizza. I like pizza. Do you like pizza? I like pizza. I like pizza. I like pizza. I like baseball. I like baseball. Do you like baseball? I like baseball. 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 I like Osaka. I like Osaka. Do you like Osaka? In your demonstration, show the variations of the troubles they will have. They will have trouble thinking of the new word. They will have trouble. They want to stop. Show them that they don't have to stop. Encourage them. They will stop, but encourage them. Tell them, well, next time there's, and remember that too. They don't have to be perfect this time. Just remember there is next time. What you did wrong here, just remember it so that then you can try to target it specifically for your next time. Okay, so that brings us back to the original drawing that I have. That's what that was. We started from English. People learned to like think of whatever was in front of them. They switch it out and then they come back to the repeat word. Anybody brave enough to tackle this one? Sorry, Simon. You knew what was going to happen, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you did. Okay. Do you have any questions, sir?
No.
All right. Take it slowly, okay? But whatever you do, do not stop. If you need to slow down your pace so that you can think, let your pace be your buddy. You don't have to constantly try to match my speedy pace, but if you can, fantastic. If you can, slow down your pace purposely, but don't stop. Here we go. I like English. 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 I like books. I like books. I like books. Do you like books?
Do you like books? Do you like books?
No, no. You like books.
You like books. You like books. You like books. You like books. You like coffee. You like coffee. Do you like coffee?
Now, sorry, I maybe didn't. I forgot to point this out to you. You don't change the pronouns. The pronoun in the answer and the pronoun in the question remains entirely the same. They will always be I and you. The only thing I want them to have as a variable are the words that they received as the repetition word and the new inclusion word. Sorry, I didn't explain that. Trust me, I normally explain this much better, but because it's always out of sequence, it's hard to remember what I said or what I didn't say. But you will answer with I like. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Here we go again. I like books. I like books. Do you like books? I like books.
I like books. I like books. I like books. I like books. I like coffee. I like coffee. I like coffee. Do you like coffee?
I like coffee. 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 I like soccer. I like soccer. Do you like soccer?
I like soccer. I like soccer. I like soccer. I like soccer. I like the rain. I like the rain. Do you like the rain?
I don't know, Lorraine. So I really can't.
The rain.
No, okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I would try to make a joke out of that. If a kid said something like, for example, I learned the other day, there's a really popular rock band called 1 O'Clock. The name of the band is called 1 O'Clock. When the kid said, I like 1 o'clock, I said, okay, so you like a particular time of day. Very interesting. And then he explained to me after the class, no, Mr. Cruz, 1 O'Clock is a rock band. I thought, oh, cool. I'll go look him up. Looked them up. Really good band. Go check them out. They're a really good band. I would like to put you into breakout rooms to try this. It's a lot harder than it looks, but because there's other stuff and there's a question answer period that I want to go to, I think you're going to get more out of the next thing I have to say as opposed to practicing. You can, all right, Meg. Yeah. I just saw Meg's thing in the chat. So you can try this on your own. And by the way, I will give you my email at the end of this. And if you have any extra questions that you didn't get a chance to ask me, or if you want to practice this, or if you want to attend some of my seminars that are about this, then please come to those seminars. You can ask more questions and stuff and stay in touch with me. I like talking to people about this. I honestly believe, even beyond, what is starting to become my somewhat monetary purposes, like in writing a book to do this, it is not about the money. Trust me, you don't make a lot of money writing books on English teaching. You do not. But I want, especially you guys, you are the first carriers of this to students in terms of learning English. You guys need to get this, and I'm very happy to help you with it. And in but, taking sentences and making compound sentences. We take the practice that we did earlier on, probably in week 2 or 3, learning negation, past tense negation, future tense negation, and we start doing it with this. Now, to learn negation, okay, is a skill in its own, but to learn negation, flowing through a longer sentence or longer sentences with the new word that they chose, okay, and they have to choose, okay, whether they like. If they truly do like coffee, then they say, I like coffee. But for some reason, they say, I don't like tea. They have to choose not just the I like positive, the I don't like tea negative, but they have to choose the appropriate conjunction. Is it and or is it but? Depends. What is it on one side or the other? Are they different forms? Then they need the conjunction but. Are they the same form? Then they need the conjunction and. You have to do that on the fly. And it is not the grammar of the simple, subject, verb, object. It is the task inside your brain doing all of this on the fly. Completely different task for them. From there, we start moving on to the switch on themes. For example, this theme, my family, or perhaps I call it my room, but the theme is your possessions. Kids at that age have just started to get possessions. Their uniform, their cell phone. Whoa, I have a cell phone. This is my cell phone. Check out my cell phone. And they're proud to talk about it. It's also very easy grammatically to express it and very easily motivating to talk about this stuff that you love because it's your stuff. So do you like your room? Maybe you don't like your room, but I like my cell phone. As a matter of fact, do you see that just to the corner of the blackboard? There's a little bit more writing. This is what's written. Once they get to the point where they can actually do that switch easily, I tell them, well, now let's talk about your true feelings for this. Maybe you love your cell phone. Maybe you hate your cell phone. Or the degrees in between. That gap in between, that's your neutral feeling, and you can just start with like. But maybe you like it just a little bit, or maybe you like it very much. Hey, remember, if you use that in the negative, I don't like very much, it doesn't have the same degree of strength as it does in the positive. For now, let's sit with just these 7. There's a whole bunch of others, but I just want you to get to the point where you're thinking how you feel and then connecting it to something a bit more appropriate than just I like or I don't like. And then we talk about family. You talk about I like my sister, but I don't like my brother. I like my sister, but I don't like my brother. My brother, I don't like my brother. I don't like my brother. My brother is, I don't like my brother. I don't like my brother. My brother is stupid. My brother is stupid. My brother is stupid, or whatever, Now, here's another one. If you're talking about family, you and I both know that in family, we automatically say, do you like your mother or do you like your father? We don't ask, do you have a mother? Do you have a father? That seems totally odd. But we would ask, do you have a sister? Do you have a brother? Some of these kids are single child families, and you have to ask that question. Now, that also goes on to the generation before. Do you have an uncle? Maybe they don't have an uncle. You ask that question, and they have to learn how to do that on the fly. They have to learn to answer the question. Was it a like question? Was it a have question? If it's a like question, you answer with like. If it's a have question, you answer with have. Whole bunch of variables that get to the point where you not only talk about character, you talk about that person's possession. My sister is beautiful. My sister is beautiful. My sister has a car. My sister has a car. My sister's car is pink. My sister's car is pink. My sister's car is pink. My sister is a model. My sister is a model. My sister works every day. And once you get to the point where they're being independent with this, you tell them, listen, let's just forget about that structure. If you want to alter the order, or if there's certain things that you think you don't want to talk about, you don't want to talk about your sister's stuff, but you want to talk about how she's a yoga teacher. My sister is a yoga teacher. My sister teaches hot yoga. My sister is very healthy. My sister is very healthy. My sister is 25 years old. My sister lives in Osaka. I love my sister. You don't have to talk about her possessions. But if you do, you have that choice. Start giving them choices. Start giving them different themes. They love talking about high school, or maybe junior high school, or maybe pets, or maybe sports, stuff that's everyday conversation. I tell them, well, you guys might be in university, you guys might be wondering why I don't bring up topics like global warming, climate change, and world peace, because you probably should be talking about that in your other classes. But here, I want you to actually practice the topics that you will most likely use if you ever make an English-speaking friend. You will need small talk. You will need banter. You can study climate change and the SDGs a little bit later, but after you learn how to do this. You see that question mark with a strike through it? A very simple task. No questions. Stop asking the question at the end. If you think about your own natural conversations with people, how often do you end on a question? You don't. You just say stuff. Hey, man, I see you're eating spinach again today. What gives? Well, I just wanted to eat something a little bit healthier, and I had a lot of spinach in my fridge. You have a lot of spinach in your fridge? Geez. Vegetables aren't that good for you. You just go on a conversation. It doesn't have to have a question every time. But not only my technique, but a lot of textbooks has a lot of questions. And that's because you need to practice questions. But I don't want them to start thinking that they have to end with a question every time. It's actually more natural to just say an anecdote, say a comment, give an opinion, and end it there. And then to learn how to pick up the conversation from micro cues, micro expressions, and know, oh, it's my turn. I have to keep up the conversation. They're not going to be able to practice that if they're always having the question to rely on. Another thing that I wanted to show you guys is called the word throw. And I'm going to have to zip through this really fast because I want to have at least 15 minutes for questions. But don't worry about that. We'll stay for questions until Simon says, hey, guys, we got to get going to the next thing. I call it word throw. And the practice is very simple. I say, okay, let's do something different this morning. Okay, I want you just think of an English word, any English word. And I write word on the blackboard. Okay, and I'm going to think of an English word. And I write the other occurrence of word on the blackboard. And I'm going to say it to you, and you're going to say your word to me. And I'm going to think of another word, and I'm going to throw it out at you real fast. If we're good at this, this is going to go like a ping pong rally. And we're just going to be saying words. Now, don't worry about the meaning of the word. As long as it's an English word, and as long as it's always a new word, any word will do. They don't have to have any meaning with each other. They don't have to have any meaning with the word you said before. They don't have to have a theme, okay? But if you want to have a theme, that's fine. But any word. So it would go something like, does anyone want to demonstrate this with me? A lot of head shakes. A lot of head shakes. Oh, Marushka. Oh, Simon is going, thank God. Okay. Marushka has to unmute.
Okay. Okay.
You good with this?
All right. I'm ready. Maybe.
Okay. Here we go. All right. All right. Kitchen.
Blue.
Fork.
Frog.
Knife.
Orange.
Napkin.
Purple.
Table.
Cat.
Chair.
Camera.
Good. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, and I actually asked my kids. I don't know if you noticed this, but Marushka, while I was doing that with you, I didn't sense that you had an overall theme to connecting the words that you chose. Yeah.
No, I was just trying to listen to you.
Right. You were probably trying to react to what I said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But if I said something goofy, you might be spending all your time kind of giggling to it before you could think of a word. And this is actually my point to the kids. Did you notice what I did? From the beginning, I said kitchen, fork, knife, table, napkin. I had a theme in my head. And if you have a theme in your head, it's easy for you to pluck words because you know what the next word will connect to. I encourage you to have a theme in your head. If you don't have a theme in your head, if you run out of words to that theme, think of a new theme. And we go, thank you, Mariska. And we go on from single word throw to the beginning of phrase throw, which begins with 2 words. Any 2 words. And again, they don't need a grammatical connection. They don't need to have any sort of thematic connection. However, at this point, a thematic connection actually will help you a lot more. Now, why am I emphasizing this? Because a lot of these kids go into conversations thinking, I want to speak English. But what they were not used to is actually thinking, I have to prepare something to say. Because as native speakers of Japanese, you don't prepare what you're going to say. You go up to that person and start speaking from the heart. You don't have to think about the grammar. You don't have to think about the vocabulary. But as a person who had to learn how to speak French and Japanese, I learned that what I didn't do in French was prepare what I was going to say to this person. But I did do that in Japanese, and things were more successful. And I actually still do it in Japanese. When I'm thinking I have to go to the administration and we're going to be talking about this kid that has a bit of an anxiety disorder in my classroom, I go prepare the vocabulary. I think about the vocabulary. I think about my grammar. Then we're on the conversation. I don't have to make things up as I go along so much. It's a different task if I'm going up to a friend and I know, well, I'm on a date or something like that. It's a different set of vocabulary. These kids don't even know that maybe they should do that. And this prepares them for the idea that they have to have something ready to say before they go into any kind of communicative situation. Phrase throw goes from 2 words where the 2 words themselves, oh, sorry about that. The 2 words themselves, okay, have a condition, okay? And one of them must be a verb. Could be the first one, could be the second one, I don't care. Both of them, I don't care, but at least one of them has to be a verb. Now, you guys know what a verb is, right? You know, run, sit, stand, jump, kick, buy, sell. And they go, okay, we got it. One has to be a verb. And you might monitor, and some people will forget. You remember, no, verb, one verb. Good. So you might want to monitor that. One has to be a verb. And after a couple of rounds of that, they're going to start saying things like sister, study, play, baseball. And this is where I point out to them, okay, look at that. And I write it on the board exactly this way. Look at this. If you add judiciously just one more word, you're going to get a subject, verb, object chain. When you were thinking about play baseball, you were probably thinking about yourself, right? You're a baseball guy, right? You're probably thinking sister study English. Well, yeah, it really should be my sister studies English, but hey, it's cool. I understood you, that your sister study. Oh, your sister doesn't study English. Okay, cool. Just don't forget to put that in there. But I know you were limited. You weren't allowed to say not because you were only allowed to say 2 words. I promised you kids, and I'm talking to them, I promised you kids that all I want you to learn from the beginning of this class was to be able to string together subject, verbs, and objects. And if you make the next step, you will be doing that. What you thought you couldn't do, what you thought was an empty promise on my part, you will hit in the next 2 or 3 minutes because you're going to be speaking like this. Once they get from that, then I call it idea throw. And I do not call it sentences. I do not call them sentences because if they're sentences, they're starting to think again about accuracy. And one of the important things is that fluency is entirely separate from complexity and accuracy. There is way too much confusion. When people are talking about fluency, they think that fluency means, well, you got to have complex sentences, beautiful English, and you've got to be accurate. No, it is a triad: complexity, accuracy, and fluency. Fluency is my definition. Do you speak fast and do you speak smoothly? With effed up grammar or confusing vocabulary, sometimes you make syntactical mistakes. But are you fluent? Okay, that's fluency. Complexity and accuracy is something they practice with their JTE a lot more. You don't need to teach them that. They have enough pressure learning that. let them make mistakes. So idea is the word I use, not sentence. Now they have to actually say entire ideas. Sister study English, sister go school. That's one person. Mother make dinner, mother no good cook is what they want to say. And what you're going to find is that naturally more and more of them will start to bounce, like Marushka was trying to do, bounce off each other. But because they have to bounce off each other 2 sentences at a time, they, or maybe not, maybe you'll have to give them a lot more practice, will need more practice to actually be able to get to the point where there's throwing sentences that are thematically connected and, believe it or not, spontaneous and near independent. There are a few more things that I can show you to actually get to independent conversation. But number one, we're running out of time. And most of you do not have the luxury of doing exactly what I do. Instead, you probably just want to get to this point. Word throw, you can use that as a warm-up anytime. Kids love it. If you give them like a Quizlet set and say, hey, we're going to be doing this in word throw next week. Let's see if you guys can remember, or maybe variations on word throw. Maybe it's grammar throw, or doing the names of things and stuff like that. But the idea of high speed, high repetition, pair work is where this really sits. If you do it all the way through, you're going to get to the point where your semester assessment is basically just this. Did you have a conversation that was really fun, equal and natural? Did you communicate well? Did you speak any Japanese? Those are the things that make this a real pleasure for me, because I don't have to do any I don't have to do any marking at home. The students know immediately at the end of the test what they did on the test. When you're doing the test, you don't actually participate. They're actually in groups that they made talking about similar topics. And it's just so much easier for them. This part is actually mostly for my university classes. But if you were to think maybe I should try this, please contact me and I'll be able to talk to you about it more. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the semester assessments, but basically what I just said before. The structure itself, not that hard, and it emphasizes the things that you did in the classroom, and it allows them to look at English in a different way. It's not about accuracy. It's not about the stuff that they remembered from the textbook. It's about the stuff that they learned to do with you. Your takeaway: fluency first, accuracy later. You are a coach. You are there to teach skills, not facts. Believe it or not, they have plenty of English in their heads, even after 1 year of junior high school. But before we go on to the second year of junior high school, where we're ramming more facts into their head, they have to practice these facts. They have to practice these skills, not facts. There are some pitfalls. Be careful of them. There are no clear connections to other classes' material, so you have to make those connections for them. You have maybe no connection to their actual final assessment, their real test with the JTE, but maybe you tell them, well, yeah, I know, but don't you want to be an English speaker? And besides, English speaking is going to be something that's going to get more and more important when you graduate high school. The common test is going to have speaking section in it. You have to make sure that when you do this, you do not allow, or you provide as little possibility as possible for them to fail in the demonstrations. And keep your scaffolding minimal, one variable at a time. And you have to be clear about what this is about, okay? That's why I encourage you to do this by yourself and think about the paradigm switch. You are not an instructor of knowledge. You are a skills coach. If you can get that in your head, you're going to do really, really well. Don't worry about the quality. Get them to just output quantity, okay? Don't tell them about the grammar. Show them the grammar. They're going to be told about the grammar. If you work well with your JTE, tell them, hey, I got them to do this grammar in the conversation class. Can you maybe just make sure that they understand in Japanese? Or they will tell you what they taught in grammar. Can you make some sample sentences for them? As I said before, atomize your class steps carefully. I have gotten all kinds of raves from this, but these are just 4 people that I chose because they're my close friends. These are their actual quotes. Mary teaches at a university, but she also owns an English school where she mostly teaches children, and she does this with little kiddies as young as 5 years old. Jenny was an ALT when she said that. Now she works as a university part-time instructor. Catherine works at the junior high school and university. Adam Jenkins is like me. He's a professor at university, does part-time work a little bit too. I want you to stay in touch with me, and I will give you my my email a little bit later. But if you want to take a quick look at that QR code, take a screenshot. I will provide this as a PDF to you. If you can, stay in touch. Ask me your questions. Otherwise, I'm sorry that took so long to get to the end, but thank you very much for your warm attention. And we'll go on to any questions that anybody has. And I will stop the share and make sure that people can actually unmute. I believe you can. There you go. Okay, now you can unmute and throw out the questions. Oh, thank you. I'm getting little applause markers. It's nice. Okay, hands up if you want to ask a question, or just unmute your mic. But if a lot of people start asking questions, let's use that raise hand so I know who's first and who's next. Oh, I think, okay, Peter.
Yeah, thank you again for everything. That was fantastic. Just two quick questions. One, at the start, you said that you estimated minimal fluency to be between 110, 120 words per minute. Given that you're fluent in several languages, have you noticed, is there a difference between languages in that sense, or have you looked into it? No.
French is the same. If anything, French people do speak faster, but the minimum level of achievement at 110, 120, I believe to be the same. I will also clarify, I said this before, this is my hypothesis. There is no science behind this. You will not see anybody else write about this. I have been actually challenged on it. Well, why do you say that, you know, at a proper university conference when you don't have any science? Well, because nobody has any science. It's someplace to start from. And yes, it is a little bit of my intuition, but it works out. If you guys try it, and you measure some of your kids, you can actually make a class out of that. Hey, kids, I want to measure your fluency. Let's do this. Let's read this paragraph, and you'll see how fast you can when you read. Now, put away that paragraph, and let's see how you are in your Japanese fluency. Tell them, speak in Japanese. Now, count your Japanese words. Make sure that they know what you mean by a word. Now, let's do your English fluency, and do all of these comparisons, and you'll find the ones that you think are fluent, you might have some, are speaking close to 90, 80 words per minute. You might be lucky enough to actually have kids that hit my minimal fluency level. But French is basically the same. Japanese is basically the same. I've never done anything with Arabic speakers or Chinese speakers, but I would say it's probably the same. Humans are humans, right?
Great. Yeah, I was just wondering, in case there was some kind of like, if naturally Japanese fluency was somewhat slower, if that would have a negative carryover, but that sounds great. And my second question ties on to what you were saying there. I wonder, you've been researching this a lot, have you done something where at the start of the course, you get the students to measure their English fluency, and then at the end of the course, that and seeing, because looking at this and looking at the videos that you show, like the level of fluency from the students has increased hugely. Have you kind of like quantified that?
I actually will qualify what your perception there. I wouldn't say that it improved hugely. It improved. Remember, those were two different sets of students. And the first set of students, the ones that I did in my video playlist, those were kids that are already on an average of TOEIC 520. So these are kids that had a lot of English knowledge. The kids that you saw in the second video, where everything was blurred out for the sake of privacy, right, those kids were averaging about a TOEIC 430. Okay, so a lot lower level, but there were some kids who I think there was one girl who was like 600. Anyway, the point is, I don't think their fluency increased as much as their willingness to actually utter sentences over a longer period of time. They wanted to speak English. They knew it was a safe place to speak. They did improve. As to how much they did improve, I didn't know, because I took that video somewhere around 2016. And I was about to do what you were saying. Hey, let's all measure that. But guess what? There was this virus thing. I don't know. Heard about a
Fukui thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And it kind of stalled my plans for doing that. And I might do it to a limited degree online. But you have to be really careful. And my philosophy is very conservative when it comes to introducing new things to my classrooms, because I want to be seen as leading a classroom that where, again, the no fail scenario, kids are never asked to do a demonstration where they might end up embarrassing themselves. If psychologically they know that, then they're more willing to actually demonstrate. So I will, but to answer your question, no, I haven't yet.
Great, excellent. I might get in contact with you because I might be interested in trying something like that. But we'll talk
I already
afterwards.
said, please do so. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Got a question here from Blake. If nobody raises their hand, but Blake, if you want to open up your mic and your camera, you're quite welcome to. Otherwise, I'll read it. Which lesson would you recommend for a single class with no follow-up lessons, or a 2-class sequence? Thanks. Which lesson would you recommend for a single class with no follow-up lessons? If you go to my video playlist on YouTube, oh, and by the way, let me just share this with you. Back up here. Where it says up there, the upper QR says Goldfish 365, that's my website. And if you go to my website, that has links to my YouTube playlist. If you go to my YouTube playlist, there are 7 videos, about 20 minutes a piece. So the total of the 2 hours that I did it, approximately. And the first video that I did, if you cannot do anything more, do it in sequence. Do it from the first exercise in the first video and follow that sequence. Probably you should, well, actually, I should just warn you. What I did in 20 minutes in that video should take you 2 classes. Should be a lot more practice, should be a lot more explanation. There's an explanation there that I did that I compacted very deeply about how I learned to speak English and how I experienced a Canadian second language classroom. And that's something that you sort of have to tell these kids. And it is harder to do it in English if your kids are only junior high school students. Please allow yourself the luxury, if you can speak Japanese, to go ahead and do this in Japanese. Do the instructions in Japanese. There is way too much of a phobia of us as I even hate the term native language speakers to actually fulfill this supposed role where we build an obstacle in front of the kids and say, well, you know, if you only speak English to them, then they're going to have to learn to speak English with you. Wrong. They'll take the easier path. They will just not speak to you. Oh, but then they have to understand you if you speak English. Wrong. They will just stop listening to you. Especially something difficult, like explaining the nature of fluency, explaining the nature of a very weird classroom. Do it in Japanese and tell them what I say in the classroom, the language that I use is not important. What is important is your commitment to speaking the language that you want to learn. So I want you to try to speak English at least during the pair work time. If you speak a little Japanese with me, you know, you're asking me a question, you can't ask that very well, that's okay. I'm explaining it to you, but I encourage you. You speak the English, I'll speak the Japanese so you understand what I'm saying. Isaac.
Hi, Jose. Thank you
Hi.
again
Yeah, you're
for
welcome.
everything. It's been really interesting to hear about this. And based off what you just said, I was thinking of asking a question related to that. So most of us, we are usually in a class with a JTE almost all the time. So if we were wanting to use Japanese in the classroom, because I often have that feeling that I want to use it,
Yes.
but I feel like on the JTs and that either it's going to be an awkward feeling with us using Japanese, like taking their job kind of, you know, like that's their job to do the Japanese and we're there to do the English. So how do you say, like in junior high school, for example, I teach at a junior high school. So like I want to not only use the Japanese when I'm like near them and helping them out with small things. I do that usually. When I'm helping out one-on-one, I'll use Japanese with them. But if I want to use it in front of everyone, should I previously discuss with the JT, like this
Absolutely.
is what I want to do. I want to explain some of these things in Japanese. Can you let me do that? Or
Yes.
are you going to jump in and translate what I'm saying in Japanese? How should I go about that?
Okay, first I need to ask, is your JTE always with you in the classroom?
I would say yes, probably.
Okay.
There's occasional times when they'll have to do something, they aren't able to join the class, then they'll be like, hey, can you do
So
this for me? So
if
yeah.
that's something to worry about, if you think that, okay, number one, please do that. I mean, when I say don't be afraid to use Japanese, of course, the protocol is you guys can't do anything without talking to your JTE anyway. So you know that. I don't have to say that. Check with your JTE. Now they might resist. You know, if they resist heavily, sorry, don't do it. Okay. Your working relationship is more important. Try to do it in English instead. However, tell them what I said. Tell them the guy who made this system says that it's okay. Now, get ready to show them the system. Now, that QR code will go to my website here. When you get to my website, this is my verbal classroom demonstration link. Okay. This will take you, this is a direct embed of YouTube, but from here, if you click it, you can get back to my YouTube, my YouTube demo, or you can click here on the blue button and it will take you to that demo. I'm going to go to a tab here and it will give you all of these. Show any of these, especially the first one. Okay, tell them, bear with me. This is about 2 or 3 minutes. Get prepared to show it and tell them this works. This works in English. This works in Japanese. I think it'd be just as good if I can do it. But if you're going to be in the room with me, I need you to know what it is that I want you to explain to them. Now, watch Cruz. This is what he says. Can you explain that to them in Japanese? And then I'm going to do it in English. And then we'll go through it with this. And this is the next thing that I want to do. I need you to maybe explain it or translate it after I say it in rough terms. But yes, negotiate with them, get them on side. And the easiest way to get them on side is to show them what you saw and what you found remarkable, what you found interesting. They will find interesting too. All of the doubts you had before you went into breakout rooms, you did demonstrations with me, they will have too. But you were allayed after you tried. So tell them, listen, I know what you're thinking. The kids aren't going to do it. No, they will do it. And I know that, okay, because Cruz says so. So you're going to have to take a leap of faith. Trust me on this one, they will. But as long as you're smiling all the way through it, they'll do it. And if the JTE is with you because you did the negotiations at the beginning, the kids are going to be with you. Yes, you have, she is the captain. You're the executive officer. Think about that relationship. Okay. You need the captain on board with you, but if the captain is on board with you, the kids will be totally on board with you. Think about it that way. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jose. That was a good answer. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Got anything else down here? Never, I don't, it's amazing that your method, I'm going to read it. So it's amazing that your method resulted in a rise in your students' confidence to speak. But did you notice any outliers? Yes, of course I did. Outliers. For example, students with extreme social anxiety, yes. Who didn't show any outward improvements in that sense, yes. Now, to that end, it's interesting that you pointed out about outliers and kids with social anxiety, because in the 20 years that I've been doing this, of course, I'm going to run into those kids. Those are kids who probably would be happy to just sit in the back and keep their faces down in their textbook and say nothing. And maybe they didn't improve, but they did participate. And the fact that they participated at all, I think, to me, is, I gotta say, one of my major wins. Everybody participates. Now, I have not yet encountered a kid who refuses to participate. Most will. I've had kids who were just really obstinate, and maybe it was like a psychological trauma. And they said, I don't care who this teacher is. I don't care about this method. I'm going to give every English teacher I meet a hard time. I've met kids like that, and so will you. Got to say, nothing works with those kids, but this will work better than anything else, because at least you're not focusing on the one kid that's like making your life miserable. The other kids are actually doing stuff, and maybe that kid eventually, and actually the one kid that I'm thinking about, eventually they started doing stuff too. So yes, there are outliers who don't improve, but everyone participates. And it may be the only minimum target that you can set for yourself is that these kids are actually talking. Isn't that a win? Yes, Marushka, yes. Any other questions? Simon, how are we doing for time? If somebody is thinking, maybe I want to ask a question, but we're running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could probably do one or two more, but then after that, yeah, we should probably wrap up so we can do the block meetings. So if, yeah, maybe one or two final questions. I'll ask a question while people are thinking. So actually, yeah, originally I had the same question as Peter about different languages and fluency measures. But yeah, thank you for answering that. Also, another question. This is going right back to the beginning, and you said like when you initiate the task, the initial task, that the students immediately go into it, and you said it's about setting it up. But you said there's a bit of a mysterious X factor, but can you give any advice to how to set it up? So when they initially start with pairs, is there any advice that you can give on how to sort of, set it up successfully?
Please take this the right way, but I'm about to say something maybe a little controversial. Students are like dogs. They can smell fear. When you walk into that classroom, especially for the first time, do not enter with trepidation. Do not enter with your own anxiety. If you do have any, push it down. You've had some acting training because you've actually been a teacher. You know that sometimes you got to act. Sometimes you really have to turn on the jets, especially if it's been a rough weekend and you got things on your mind. Hit them with a smile. Explain the very first time that you're doing the class, that's the way I normally look in a classroom, even when I'm having a shitty day. And you will have them, and you will be surprised, and some kids will frustrate you a bit. Do not lose your ability to smile about it, because once they see their leader actually looking, well, I don't know, we should do this. You guys might not, tell you what, and oh man, you've lost them. Every step has to be solid. Every step is like, oh, I know exactly what you guys, oh man, I can't wait to do this. You guys are going to love this. It is all in your head. And this is why, again, the paradigm shift of moving away from a knowledge vessel and becoming a skills coach. A skills coach is very much, like, you ever done any, you can give me a thumbs up, Simon. You ever done any sports, Simon? Okay. So your coach was acting all the time. And maybe there were moments when they, relaxed, or maybe, the coach wasn't so great and they didn't commit 100% to the task of actually using positivity and positive psychology to get their kids to play well, but good coaches do. And if you can learn how to be a good coach, that's what's really going to turn them on to this, because you love it, they're going to love it too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, actually. Yeah, I think, basically the confidence coming from the teacher is so important. And that comes from being prepared, and you being confident that you know what you're doing, you're prepared, and you have everything planned out. And
that's a good that's a good point. So I should have mentioned that. Not only should you be ready to fake it, you shouldn't need to fake it, because you should be overly prepared and know exactly what you want to do. You know exactly what you want to stop. You know where you have to explain what. It should be in your head. Do not read from notes. It should be so clear to you that this is something that you can actually just say. If you're reading from notes, you're saying, okay, well, Cruz says this, so I'm just going to read what Cruz wrote in his write-up. You've lost them. You have to look like you're empathizing with them, and empathize with them from your Japanese learning experience. Tell them, I know how you feel. This is something that I deal with. I know that I have to improve my Japanese fluency. And I know that this is what I do. And maybe you might have even more experience than I do in learning a language. You've been at it maybe 6 years, and I've only been at it 3. Maybe you can show me in this demonstration something better. I'm going to learn from you as much as you can learn from me. Let's walk this path together. Blah, 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 blah. All the stuff that, you can find from motivational memes on Facebook. It'll work.
I really like what you said about the room energy as well. Not just creating it, but reading the room energy as well. It's like curating it is
yes.
Thinking about it. But yeah, something I think, totally agree. Very, very important.
I think we have time for one more question. If somebody's hesitating, say it now. Forever hold your peace until you get to your computer and write me an email anyway.
I did see someone with their hand up before, but maybe they've
I don't know if I should. Oh, there it is. Vincent.
Yeah. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Oh, you're good.
All right, cool. Hey, thanks for doing this, Jose. I appreciate it. I guess my main question is hearing what your philosophy on all this is about how speaking and just actually speaking is important, not necessarily getting it correct. And I totally agree with that. And that's kind of what I've done in all my classes up until I came here to Japan this year, because as a junior high school ALT, I find myself in a very supplementary, supportive role.
We all know what you mean. Yeah.
Right. And I'm slowly getting more time and control over the classrooms. But for the most part, I'm just sort of there. They'll point at the book and say, can you make a worksheet with this thing, this here? And you're like, okay, all right, whatever. And you do it. And it's very rarely speaking that they want. So I'm curious how you can go about implementing this into a junior high school classroom where you don't have much time. And then also how beneficial is maybe having like 15, 20 minutes once a week for a class. Like, just how would you go about putting this into the lesson a little bit?
Integrating this with a normal classroom schedule and lesson, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first, try a couple warm-ups. This week's warm-up, just be verb, maybe past tense, then maybe end on the AQP. I don't know. Feel like, Simon said, read the room. Yeah. Next week, we're going to start again from this time the do verb. And we're going to do, hey, we're going to practice should. I should you, you should he. Okay. And now let's do the AQP with a regular verb. So those should take about 15 minutes. My buddy and the other teacher that I was talking about, he found that it went on to 35 minutes. Don't be surprised that it does. But let's say, I don't actually have a textbook here, but I don't know if you have a textbook at hand there, Vincent.
Oh, not with me, no.
Does anyone have a textbook?
The New Horizon ones.
Okay, anyone have a textbook nearby that can recite to me any given sentence in it? Isaac, okay. Oh, Marushka, you got one? No? Okay, no, not. Okay, Marcos, you want to just open a page and just recite any given target sentence in there? Well, something along the lines of 5 or 6 words, maybe 7 or 8.
Oh, okay.
Or Isaac, if you can win. I like making things. Oh, good, Marcus, go.
Okay. We must not bring our cell phones to our dinner table.
Got it. Okay. We must not. Okay. Okay, everybody, we're going to practice bring, because that's the key verb there. You look for the key verb. I bring, do you bring, you bring, does he bring, he brings, does she bring, she brings, does it bring? I don't bring, do you bring, you don't bring, does he bring? You might want to actually practice I do you do, does he? Okay, let's practice I don't, do you don't, does he doesn't, does she? Okay, let's bring in bring. I bring, do you bring, does he bring? I don't bring, do you bring? Keep the negative in one place. They only have to practice in one place. I don't bring, do you bring, you don't bring, does he bring, he doesn't bring, does she bring, she doesn't bring, does it bring? Okay. I have a cell phone. Do you have a cell phone? He has a cell phone. Does she have a cell phone? Okay. I don't have a cell phone. Do you have a cell phone? You don't have a cell phone. Does he have a cell phone? I eat at the kotatsu. Do you eat at the kotatsu? He eats at the kotatsu. Does she eat at the kotatsu? He always eats at the dinner table. Does she always eat at the dinner table? You'll notice what I'm doing is simultaneously lengthening the target sentence while simultaneously bringing in elements from the target sentence, while simultaneously changing the elements slowly. You might want to write all of these out. I do it from my head, right? But eventually, once you've got all of those, you start packing them together. I don't bring my cell phone. Do you bring your cell phone? You don't bring your cell phone. Does he bring his cell phone? By the way, that's possessive pronoun. But I would not challenge that sentence until about week 5 or 6, and that's with a lot of practice. Okay, so even if it is the target in the textbook, there are certain things that you don't have to put into the system, into the practice. And you can just say, okay, well, now look at the textbook, kids, what we practiced just now. Now here's the sentence that I was inspired to do it from, but it does have the possessive pronoun. I'm going to let you do that for homework. We'll practice that next week. Take any sentence, atomize it. Think about the scaffolding. Think about the scaffolding in different ways. Think about what you did previously to it with past tense, with negation, with conditionals, with potentials. Bring it all together. Simon, are we pretty much done, I guess?
Yes, yeah, I think we should wrap up very soon. But also, I just want to make a couple of points. I have some connected points that I want to make regarding your question, Vince, and something else Jose talked about. But Maybe I'll do it when we've stopped recording the video, if that's okay.
Shall I stop the video recording then?
Yeah, if that's okay.
That's perfectly okay with everybody. Quick wave. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you. Bye.